Welcome back. In this video, I'll be discussing SLB stock and giving you my bull thesis on the stock. SLB is a company that used to go by Schlumberger, and they are the largest oil field services company in the world. For that reason, and fears of oversaturation in the oil market, lower oil prices, and drilling slowdowns, the stock has been down. But I believe there are now both fundamental catalysts and technical evidence that the stock is rebounding, and I'd like to share those with you today. The first thing I'd just like to mention is that the stock is trading at an attractive valuation. So it's trading at a forward PE of less than 14 times and an enterprise value to EBITDA of less than 10 times. Based on historical averages and historical norms, that is a pretty attractive valuation for the stock. Now, you do have to be careful with companies like this that can have a cyclical quality to them, because sometimes they'll trade at a higher multiple at a time when you actually would like to buy the stock, and they'll trade at a lower multiple when you shouldn't buy the stock because of the previous performance. But in this case, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the future that tell us that this low valuation is okay. We also have a technical buy signal. If we look at the chart, we have had a crossover of the 50 and 200-day moving averages. You can see that the stock consolidated here in between really April and toward the end of 2025, and now appears to be breaking out to the upside. And so on a technical basis, this stock is starting to look very strong. As a full disclosure, I did buy on July 15th. I bought shares at $35. And on October 22nd, I also bought shares at 34.49 and 34.50. So I do own shares of SLB, and I just want to be upfront about that. I am a shareholder. Along with the attractive valuation, we are seeing that internationally there is still a lot of investment in oil and gas projects, and we're seeing some of that in the news play out. As you can see here from IEF.org, growing demand to increase upstream oil and gas investment needs 22% by 2030. A cumulative $4.3 trillion in new investments will be needed between 2025 and 2030, according to the Upstream Oil and Gas Investment Outlook report published today. This is from June of 2024. We're seeing investment December 23rd, 2025. Aramco awards SLB long-term contract to support Kingdom's unconventional gas production growth. This is a 5-year contract that SLB was awarded from Saudi Aramco. We also have a lot of offshore drilling investment happening. So the offshore drilling market size is expected to more than double, according to this report, between 2025 and 2034. So there's a lot of demand for offshore drilling that's going to be taking place in the years to come. Also, we've seen an example of this. September 25th, 2025, SLB awarded major completions contract for ultra deepwater project offshore Brazil. This is from Petrobras, which is the biggest oil company in Brazil. So this is another contract that SLB got recently. So we're seeing international demand for the services that SLB offers. So we have a good valuation, we have investment internationally in the services that SLB offers, and then we also see SLB trying to move into higher margin businesses in their digital businesses. So they are selling different products that are designed to help drive efficiency for their customers. And so we're seeing SLB move into things like their Lumi data and AI platform. We also see their Tele Agentic AI assistant, and SLB offers software solutions. A lot of this is about driving efficiency with existing wells and existing infrastructure. So it's not all just about new wells, it's also about getting the most out of the wells that companies already have. These parts of the business are about driving efficiency, and it also can not just provide more efficient use of existing infrastructure for companies that have that infrastructure, but it also can provide higher margins potentially in the future for SLB, as software tends to be a higher margin type of business. So the software and technology, the digital business, kind of goes hand in hand with this idea of more recurring revenue and having a more of a recurring revenue focus. In 2025, SLB acquired a company called ChampionX. They said this move expands SLB's presence in this important, less cyclical and growing market that aligns closely with our returns focused capital light core growth strategy. So again, trying to make the business less cyclical and trying to make the business more capital light so they can have better margins and more recurring revenues or regular revenues into the future. ChampionX offers chemical technologies, artificial lift technologies, and essentially more operating expenditure driven services as opposed to capital expenditure driven services that are not as frequently occurring. So rather than, again, having more of a cyclical core business, which, that still will probably continue to be SLB's core business, is the business that they're trying to build on. But they are trying to grow the business in ways where they'll have, again, more regular revenues, and they'll be focused more on operational expenditures and not just capital expenditures coming from customers. SLB released this information around the time of the acquisition about how the acquisition fit with their strategy and also about the key offerings that ChampionX had. So production chemicals, production and automation tech, drilling technologies, and reservoir chemicals. And now another thing I wanted to mention with this was the news that has happened this weekend. This is a headline from Reuters. Trump says U.S. oil companies will spend the billions needed to restore Venezuela's crude output. And later down in the article, there is a note that says top oil field service companies SLB, Baker Hughes, Halliburton, and Weatherford did not immediately respond to requests for comment, but their services would be essential to produce any meaningful increase in Venezuela's heavy crude. Depending on what happens there in Venezuela, has the potential to have a big impact on SLB's business as well, as if they're going to be building out infrastructure in Venezuela related to oil and energy. SLB, there's a pretty good chance they're going to get some of those contracts. Here you can see an infographic that breaks down SLB's Q3 2025 revenue by segment: production systems, well construction, reservoir performance, digital, and then all other, and then eliminations and other. Some descriptions of what each of those have as a part of that segment. And just a note here that the ChampionX contribution, or the ChampionX acquisition, contributed to growth in production systems and also in the digital segment as well. So just like to note that as a part of that all other segment, they are involved in carbon capture solutions. So this is another part of SLB's business that could be a potential runway for growth in the future. Here you can see financial performance, revenue in red, gross profit in green, operating profit in orange, and net income in blue. And you can see that despite, some lower oil prices in recent years here, they've been able to have their revenue and their profitability hold up pretty well. The margins have held up pretty well despite the fact that oil prices have been where they are. So overall, as SLB continues to see demand in the coming years for the services they offer, is that international investment is occurring, the offshore investment is occurring. And then also as they look to grow the parts of the business that will allow for more regular and recurring revenues, I think there's a lot of catalysts here. I think that the chart looks as though it's breaking out and is telling us that there's catalysts for a lot of upside here. I'm really bullish on SLB stock. I do own it. I am not going to give a specific price target because there is still a relatively large part of the business that is going to be cyclical, and it's going to, be partially based on what the oil and energy markets are doing. But I do believe that there is quite a bit of opportunity from here with SLB stock. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, if you found it informative or helpful at all, please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, click the bell for notifications, follow me on X at Stock Sale Flyer. And, if you do subscribe, you can kind of follow along with this position I have in SLB and see how it goes into the future. And I'll update you as we go along. Thanks. Take care. Bye.